Hi everyone, Miss Moxley here. I have the agenda up for you guys for today. You need to complete the fungi lesson and quiz. I realize that tomorrow is a holiday, it is election day, and you guys will not be at school, so I will adjust this agenda and this pacing. The items for Tuesday will go for Wednesday, and the items for Wednesday will go for Thursday, and Thursday to Friday. You guys get the picture. Note that your recording will still be on Wednesday though, so don't panic. Just know that I will go in and adjust these agenda items for you. So viruses, lesson, and quiz will go to Wednesday. Classification of living things exam will go to Thursday. And then the sales, lesson, and quiz will go to Friday. And then, of course, Friday you'll have your notebook check. So be sure that you've got your notes from every day this week. Now, as you guys can see from my notes in the background, what I want to discuss today with you guys is Monera. So I specifically had a student reach out to me regarding Monera and seeking clarification on Monera and what it is. Maybe they just had some confusion. Please note that at any time, if you guys are confused, you always can email me. But you also may utilize YouTube. If the videos in the lesson were not successful in terms of helping you, you can always go to YouTube and search items like Monera in terms of seeking further clarification on the topic or objectives or item content, whatever it is that you need clarification on. So I want to go over Monera today. The objectives, these items you should be able to do by the end of the lesson without looking. You should be able to identify Monera and describe the main characteristics of Monera. The keywords are Monera, bacteria, and cyanobacteria. Okay. So in terms of your notes, be sure that you've got those vocabulary terms, you've got them defined, and if you need to give an example, you can do that as well. So Monera are our primitive group of organisms. They are a primitive group of organisms, and they consist of items like bacteria and cyanobacteria. And cyanobacteria is sometimes referred to as blue-green algae because of its color and its appearance. And it also gives off oxygen. We'll talk about that in just a moment. Monera is the oldest life form. It is the first life form on Earth. We'll talk about that with cyanobacteria in just a second here. Monera are simple cells, so they don't have any organelles, no organs. So when you think of organelles, think of organs. They don't have a nucleus. They have very few genes, but they do have chlorophyll. Now, when we say simple cell, there's something similar to a protist in that their items inside of them, like their organs, are not membrane bound. So they do not have membrane bound organelles. Now, like with the chlorophyll, they do have chlorophyll and they do have DNA that would be like in a nucleus. It's just not membrane bound. It's free floating within the cell. Sometimes it may stick to a certain area, it may distinguish to a certain area, but it's not bound by a membrane. Now, with chlorophyll, we have items that are able to create and produce their own energy. So think of photosynthesis when we think of chlorophyll. With this in mind, with chlorophyll, this is why cyanobacteria was one of the first organisms to have or to be alive on Earth, and they gave life to other organisms because they helped to create the atmosphere that we know today in terms of oxygen. Now, with Monera, they do not reproduce sexually, they reproduce asexually. So what this means is that they grow, they duplicate the items on the inside of their cell, so replicate, duplicate, and divide into two new cells. So they split into two new cells from the one. Monera are mainly decomposers, and we are all thankful for decomposers here on Earth, or we would have lots of garbage and lots of dead carcasses and things of that nature lying around, but they decompose items and return that nutrients back to the soil. And Monera and bacteria are fairly resilient. They're fairly tough. So what this means is that they can survive in some extreme conditions, conditions that no other organisms are able to survive in, like the absence of oxygen, or in super hot places like volcanoes or hot springs. Now, in terms of humans and bacteria, we all know that bacteria can make us sick. We're all familiar with that information. But they do this by secreting toxins that cause sickness within our bodies, within us. So that is Monera in a gist. They are a simple, primitive life form, some of the oldest life forms on Earth. They do not have organelles. They do not have a nucleus. They're not membrane bound. Those items are not their organelles, their nucleus. They reproduce asexually, so they grow, replicate, and divide. They mainly consist of decomposers, and they can make us sick in terms of bacteria. So of course, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out, or you can let the facilitator know. He can contact me directly. But then again, like I pointed out earlier, don't hesitate. If you need clarification, you guys can always use YouTube. Just make sure you're using it for educational purposes. Bye guys, have a great rest of your day, and I hope that this was helpful.